Hi. For my version of this project, I decided to go more so around the route of creativity and talking to these big billionaires about how they got to where they are today. I think there is this really cool community here in Columbus. It's called Franklinton. And in the Franklinton Arts District, there's lots of artists. But there's also a lot of small business owners and small businesses that have started there that are now $1 million companies. Cover My Meds is there, Smart Columbus. Idea Foundry is now $1 million company. It's actually all owned. All of the land is owned by a businessman out in California. He came here about 10 or 15 years ago and walked through the arts district and thought this place is going to be worth a lot of money one day. It's going to be the new Short North. So he bought all of the land there and he helped to develop into what it is today, which is this really amazing, creative, vibrant community where people have the ability to work on and develop their ideas and products and prototypes. And it's very creative, it's very fun, it's very welcoming. And I think that if we had these people coming in from Silicon Valley, where there is a lot of competitiveness, a lot of creativity, a lot of different projects and ideas being thrown around, I think that this would be something that they're very interested in. Just because I don't know if other cities have areas like, every city has an arts district, but I think this one is very special in the fact that we have access to not only artists, but entrepreneurs as well. So I think bringing them into that environment would be really interesting, especially considering the fact that some of them have had some controversial exposure with artists. I know Bill Gates is very involved in art, and he's a big purchaser of very big artist names, but both Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have had controversial ties with not paying artists for their work, both on Amazon, and I think Elon Musk did it for like a product. He had some artist's photo as a background and he never actually gave the artist any credit for it. So I think that would be really interesting just to see their opinion on art. But then also to go over to Idea Foundry, which is, if you don't know what it is, it's a maker space. I worked there for a couple years. And it's on the bottom floor, it's all workshops. So there's 2 wood shops, there's a metal lab, a welding lab, a lathe room, jewelry making room. Any piece of machinery that you would want to have access to when you're prototyping and making something, you would want is there. So then on the second floor, it's actually all office space. So it's co-working, is what's called. And there's office spaces, there's huge tables that you can rent and do meetings there. There's meeting spaces, just about everything you can think of, even event spaces for any event that you could want to have. And there's a 3D printing room up there as well. So my idea was to take them into this highly creative environment and kind of talk to them about art for the first part of it and how they got their start from being this very small entity of the world with one idea and how they turned it into a $1 billion project and product. I think that would be very interesting, especially considering the fact that was about 20 years ago for most of them, where they were really starting to get a lot of press about what they were inventing. I think it'd be really cool to see from where they are now, looking back on what they did as a young adult when they had something that they were very passionate about. Then I would also like to see some of them put their creativity to use. They are these renowned billionaires that are very smart, and they got where they are today by hard work and perseverance and their creativity skills. But I think it'd be really interesting to actually see, given an infinite amount of materials and machinery, what they would actually want to create when they have no boundaries. So I think that would be really interesting. And my thought process was, Jeff Bezos is very much into this whole drone delivery system right now, so he might be interested in building a drone as well as figuring out a system in which that they would implement this drone. For Elon Musk, he's very into artificial intelligence and space travel, but I was thinking maybe in a smaller setting he'd be interested in kind of coding and programming. So I had him building a little bit of a little robot that you could code and talk to with an Arduino. And then I figured Bill Gates, he seems like a very collaborative person, and he's very interested in giving back in charity. So I thought maybe he would be more interested in kind of talking to some of the individuals that actually work at Idea Foundry and have like workspace there and do some of their artwork there, and becoming involved in a community project. I think that that's something that it seems like he would be interested in. So that was kind of the route that I went. But it was a very interesting project. I was trying to figure out how I could show it in drawings as much as I could visually, and that's why I decided to do the tracing of, I found images of Idea Foundry and images that kind of fit in with those the Idea Foundry images. I found images of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates, and tried to trace them in together. And it took a lot of iterations. It took a lot of sketching and drawing, and I'm not very good with faces, so that's why I decided to outline the individuals with different colors. Let's put like the little light bulb above their head to represent that they had an idea. I thought that would be very interesting. It might not be the route that some people went, but I was very interested in going more of a creative art route. I'm an engineering major. I picked up a minor in design, and my brother's actually an artist in Franklinton, so I get to spend a decent amount of time there. And I had a job there at a startup company called Knockout Concepts this summer, so I think I'm very interested in seeing how something can start with a very small idea and how it can blossom into a billion-dollar company. I think that it's just very fascinating to see how these men came from basically nothing. I mean, they like weren't born into a family that was very much into tech or big business, and how they had an idea and they created it and they turned it into something that is so influential. I think that talking to them about that experience, but then also kind of getting to see how that fits in with stuff that's going on now, would be really interesting. Yeah, so that was the route that I decided to go. I did really like this project. It definitely required a lot of critical thinking and trying to figure out how I was going to display things visually. And I know for the why portion, Excel stopped working on my laptop, so I had to use Google Sheets or Box for my multivariable plot, and it just would not work. So I kind of had to figure out exactly how I wanted to represent my multivariable plot from that perspective, but because it was a little difficult. It just doesn't have all the capabilities of a typical Excel spreadsheet, but I think it worked out. And then I tried to also, with the why, just kind of pick one image that showed like how big they are, and how influential they are. So I tried to have like some of them public speaking in front of a big crowd and whatnot, just so that you could like, it would resonate with you, how influential to so many people these men are. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to comment on, other than the fact that I did think it was a really interesting project, and I liked how open-ended it was, how we just had these three coming to Ohio State to talk to us, and we could kind of do whatever with them. And I think that since I'm graduating this December, which is in like 6 days now, the idea of kind of leaving campus and going somewhere else kind of fit in with my whole graduation mentality as of right now. So yeah, I did really enjoy it. I've said that a couple times. I definitely liked how open-ended it was and how creative I got to be and kind of just go on whatever route that I would like. I did get a little confused sometimes with exactly what you wanted us to show, because sometimes our PowerPoints are limited, or like you want them exactly like this amount of slides for this and this amount of slides for this, but we didn't really have quite that guideline for this, which I did like, but it also made me a little confused on what exactly I should be putting into these PowerPoint slides. But I think I ended up figuring it out. I also tried to do, you mentioned that one of my slides was very text heavy, so I tried to limit some of the text, but then I also, instead of to split up the categories, instead of having like where and why and when and who, I tried to use icons instead to separate the sections of pictures so that they had more of a transition from a visual perspective and not a text perspective. So I'm definitely trying to use less text when I'm trying to communicate with people. I think the whole visual communication is very important, and it's also very interesting. I like to draw, so it is definitely helpful, and I'm really excited to actually implement that into my job and my future career. So yeah, I think this definitely helped with that, and I am looking forward to see how I can implement a lot of the techniques that I've learned in this class into my future career. And I had a really great semester doing that. So Thank you, and have a good winter break.